welcome to the Chelsea Skidmore Show. I'm here today with my guest, Comedy Store pianist Jeff Scott.
Hi, Chelsea.
Jeff, thank you for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
We were up very late last night until 2. Can
At
you
least
fall right?
two. Oh, can I?
Can you fall right asleep when you get home?
Yeah. Well, I'm almost 57, so now, yeah. But yeah, in my 30s and 40s, no. You go home and
57.
oh well, thank you.
Yeah.
Can't everybody tell that from what we're hearing? Do I sound?
Yeah. No. And you have a great haircut.
Thank you.
It's kind of like Steven's haircut almost.
Daytime fluffy.
Love it.
No, now I can like totally fall asleep. But I also I take a 3-hour nap before work every night. I shouldn't call that a nap. I call that a sleep.
I have a friend who can. I have a friend who's taken a 7-hour nap.
Wow.
But I think she has depression.
Yeah, that might be. Yeah.
I love it. So how long have you been working at the Comedy Store?
I started December 9th, 1995.
Oh my God.
So
December 9th.
I'm coming up on my 22nd anniversary.
Wow.
And that was going into the last year that Richard Pryor performed in the original room. Richard did a set on Wednesday and Fridays for, I think, about 3 or 4, maybe even 5 months of the year, whatever I just said.
Yeah.
96.
And did all those people have to stick to, like all these big names have to stick to 15-minute spots too?
First of all, I should say yes, because Mitzi was there every single night watching. And if you went over, I had to play off Eddie Griffin one night because Mitzi said, get him off. And they flashed the light and he wouldn't get off. He didn't know that she was there. She had come in during his set. And flash the light, and he doesn't come off again. And somebody comes over and says, Mitzi wants to talk to you. And I go over to her seat, and she's like, play him off. I'm like, oh, shit. Okay, Mitzi. So I wait until there's a break and at least, a punchline for a joke. I'm not going to step on his joke. And then I start playing him off, and he's like, N-word, are you crazy, motherfucking shit, man? And he's all like coming to the edge of the stage, like and the whole audience is booing. And I'm like, Mitzi's here. She said, you're done.
He's said that in the mic?
Yeah. And he said, I'm Eddie Griffin. Peace out.
Oh, my God. That's so funny.
And he got off immediately.
So everyone was terrified of her, in a way.
Well...
Or respect.
You respected her,
of course. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I never got to meet her, unfortunately. But
no?
I love hearing all of the stories about her because she just sounds like such an awesome person.
Yeah, she was pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. I mean, that first year when I would come in, I'd set up the piano, and Richard would come in on Wednesdays early. His driver Tim would come in and they'd sit in the back and he'd have a martini with Mitzi, and so I'd be setting up the piano, and then I just got some coffee and I sat down with them and just heard, just crazy shit talking stories and stuff. I mean, Richard was feeble. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's a nice way to say it. He was, some nights he only did like maybe 7 or 8 minutes because the words just weren't coming out the way he wanted them to. And then other nights, he'd be up there for 15, 20 minutes and in the middle of just because these were life stories. He wasn't doing material. He told stories about his life. And then all of a sudden, some line would just come out, and you just roar and be like, "Oh my God, that's Richard Pryor!"
Wow, yeah,
yeah. My favorite. I took one photo, and that's a picture of me and Richard and Mitzi.
I love that pic on your phone.
Yeah,
it's a good pic.
Yeah, I always when somebody says, "How long have you worked here?" I show them that picture, and they're like, "Oh my God!" And then they look at my long, blonde-eyed hair, and they're like, "Oh my God!"
I forgot to notice the hair. I think I was just looking at the faces of everyone in the picture.
Yeah. Well, here, look.
Was the piano? So I know that there's the piano in the main room, but were you always just in the OR? Oh yeah.
No, I played in the main room also.
How did that? Was it took back and forth? Or?
It was a seniority thing.
Oh, okay.
So when I started here, there was Mitzi Shore and Mike Becker, and Mike Becker was the vice president. Mitzi did everything with comedy. Mike did everything else. So all the bar, all the wait staff, scheduling door guys, making sure we had glasses, all that type of stuff. And then he also played in the main room.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, that's interesting.
He was the head piano player, and I can't remember if. I'm not sure actually how I got in there on the first night. I sort of think that like he needed me to fill in or something. He's like, "Can you do this?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Which room do you like better?
Oh, the original room.
Yeah, it's just so much cooler. Isn't it true that Jim Carrey hid in the piano in the main room? Do you know that story?
No.
I heard that he crawled inside it, and then he was like hiding. What is it called? A hood? I don't know.
The top or lid. I don't know. It probably has a real name.
And I heard that he hid inside it for like 4 hours or something, and then like later on in the night he like jumped out, and like people had forgotten that he was in there or something.
Oh,
and then. I don't know.
So was this like during the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the piano used to be
on the stage.
No, it was beside the stage. When you're looking at the main room stage, it was to the right.
Okay.
There weren't tables there. That's why they got rid of it.
So so it's on the floor.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But there was like a spotlight that shined down there, and that's, after you played the 30-minute pre-show, then you'd welcome the audience and you'd bring up the first comic, just like they did in the main room.
So did the piano in there, did they play along with like comics, like how you kind of do
musical things? Yeah. Well, and especially when I started, we had guys that did singing impressions.
Did people like lay back on the piano and like do the whole thing? Do you know what I'm talking about?
They probably not during my years, but I'm sure they did. In previous years, because Mitzi had a sketch group. Actually,
really?
She had the Comedy Store Players.
Oh, right.
That had a whole bunch of different old comics. Old by. They're old. No, that's not what I mean. Older comics, older paid regulars. I don't know what I'm saying. It's so early in the morning.
I know. I'm sorry. I know. It's noon and we're exhausted. I just woke up at 11. I can't like not eat sometimes when I get home from these like late shifts.
Yeah.
You're very trim though.
Thank you. It's a normal metabolism.
Wow.
In ninth grade, I was 5'4" and I weighed 99 pounds.
Okay.
And in 10th grade, I was 5'9" and I weighed 110 pounds.
That's crazy that you even remember that. But I guess for guys when they're younger, height, because all of a sudden you'll be very short.
Right. And I went to a new school and suddenly I'm like taller.
Isn't that crazy? Can guys grow like a foot in a year?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I had stretch marks on the back of my knees.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
As a kid? I guess so, right?
Yeah. During a growth spurt like that, they don't stay.
Discriminate?
No. They're just on my knees. Not on my vagina.
Oh my God, so disgusting. Does that happen when you're pregnant? I'm so scared.
I don't know.
I know. Well, I want to get back to the Comedy Store stuff, but first we need to know who Jeff Scott is. You are from Ohio.
Cleveland, Ohio.
And
yes, indeedy.
And so and then you came. Well, when did you start playing piano?
Oh, well, I had lessons. My dad, when we were kids, we lived in Kent, Ohio, and my dad was the minister for college students at Kent State. So
minister meaning like of a church?
Yes.
Religious?
Yes.
Okay.
It was a Methodist church that was across the street from the campus, and it's where all the college kids hung out. And my sister and I, hung out at my dad's church with all these,
So did you grow up very religious?
No, not real religious, but, manners and polite. And
damn, does that go along with church?
I think, I guess.
Okay, well, now it's starting to make sense for me.
Yeah. Or like when they would need a kid for a play, sometimes my sister and I would do that. Mm-hmm. So that explains why I always got along with adults better. Because I always thought of myself as an adult since I just hung around all these, teenagers and they thought I was cool. So of course I'm cool. And then after the shootings at Kent State, we moved up to Cleveland.
Okay.
And from there, why was I even talking about that?
You started doing, did you start with piano
lessons?
Oh,
the piano lessons, yeah. So at Kent, I had, I think, 2 or maybe 3 years of private piano lessons. A lady, Mrs. Gleiser, Gleiser.
But you just wanted to do it? Did something
No.
attract you
My
to
sister,
it?
my sister was already taking piano lessons.
Okay.
She's almost 3 years older than me, and she was taking the piano lessons. And then when I was of age that I could concentrate for 3 seconds, which I couldn't, I was a hyper kid. Then
EDD?
no, just sugar in the
Okay.
60s,
Yeah.
and hyper little child. Everything was sugar back then. But I did like 3 years. And then when we moved up to Cleveland, I took a year of music at the Cleveland Institute of Music. And at that point, I knew I could just play by ear.
What does that mean? I'm not very
It
musically inclined.
means that I can just sit down and if I hear something,
Oh,
I can figure it out. I don't
And how
read
old
sheet
were you
music.
then?
Oh, 6, 7.
Whoa. So
Something
that's
like
very
that.
young to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I had the teacher that I had knew that I liked sort of ragtime stuff. So to get me to, concentrate more on proper fingering and reading the keys and stuff, he gave me The Entertainer, the Scott Joplin song.
Okay.
And I went home and my parents had a record that had a recording of it, and I listened to it, and I figured it out and played it for him, not knowing that the record was in a different key than the sheet music. And he's like, well, that's very interesting. What did you do? And I said, well, I just listened to it and figured it out. And, back then, they couldn't work with somebody like that. You have to do your proper fingerings and,
right.
and your hand, you have to hold this way and you have to play classical first and,
Is that
all this crap. That's
weird
what
rules they make up?
it's just
Structure to learning?
Okay. Structure. And it just wasn't for me. And
I love that, though.
The guy, Mr. D'Agostino, I still remember his fucking name. And he walked me out one day to my mom's car after the lesson and said, you're wasting your money. Your son will never play piano.
What? But you're already playing.
Yeah.
You mean just not by
And
the
the fact
rules.
that I showed him that I could play without having to read.
Yeah. Oh, and do you think that made him feel useless?
Or just, I don't know how to work with somebody like I think nowadays they would work with somebody that had a natural ear.
I think they would look at it as like you're special and creative.
Yeah,
and
you've got something a little ahead of the game.
Yeah. I love that.
On your learning curve. But
Yeah.
his whole thing was you'll never play. And that was like, okay, I'm done. And I didn't play piano for long
Isn't that
time.
funny how people when you're younger can like say something like that and just like kind of fuck you up?
Yeah.
Did that like deeply bother you in a way?
Well, no, because, it's after school. I'd rather
I'm just
be
trying to make it more than it was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, looking back at it now, it's like, yeah, screw you, guy.
Yeah.
Look where I am. Look what
So you just
my
stopped?
livelihood
Yeah.
is a pianist at a major comedy club on the Sunset
Yeah.
Strip. So
Yeah.
suck it, Mr. D'Agostino.
Yeah, send him a Christmas card. So you stopped for a little. You stopped for
Yeah. And then in 7th grade, I took up trumpet. And we had a band director that ran after-school jazz band program. And I joined that. And she encouraged me to start piano lessons again because she had heard me like before class just fiddling around on the piano and was like, holy crap, this kid can
Wow.
play. And then when I told her I've had, handful of years of lessons, but I play by ear, she would let me during study halls come to the music room and go in and, practice.
Yeah.
And then I took some summer refresher courses, like, I don't know, maybe 2 summers that I took some refresher courses. And
Did someone figure out how to work with you for your?
no,
Okay.
no, I mean, this was at this point the 70s and still not really. And then I just sort of like, oh, okay, that's done. I played trumpet all through high school, but like.
Were you good at trumpet?
Yeah, nah.
I think I'm just trying to wonder if you're good at
Average.
one instrument, are you kind of good at most instruments?
Not for me.
Okay, but is that like
Because
a
I
thing?
thought, I should be able to play guitar.
Yeah.
Can't at all. I've tried. Yeah. I
I
don't
just
have the finger strength for it. And yet I have the finger strength for a piano.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you get cramps in your fingers?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if this age I'm in now. It's like sometimes my finger will actually just lock up on me while I'm playing. One of my fingers will have a little old man seizure and be like, oh,
do you go home and soak them in a finger bowl?
I take them off and I put them in a bowl of ice and put them away in the fridge overnight.
You should have like a warm finger bowl that you put like rose water or like essential oil, lavender, and just kind of soak them.
In high school, when I was in all the musicals, at the cast parties, I would, if somebody had a piano at their house where the cast party was, I would do the songs from the musical we'd just done, but in ragtime style.
So ragtime is like what the songs are before when we're
opening. That's what I play. It's technically what I play is called stride piano. It's later than ragtime. Ragtime was like 1910 to like 20s, and my style is like 20s, 30s. And it's called stride because the bottom hand is striding over the keys because you're playing more keys than you can. Like I play, like in my top hand, I play 6 notes at a time.
But you only have 5 fingers.
Right.
How?
Yeah, one finger is hitting 2 keys. You hit them right in the middle if you want those.
Oh, wow.
And then my bottom hand, which you can see my bottom hand is longer. Look at how much crazier longer my thumb is there from playing that octave.
Wait, can you show me again? Oh, wow. Whoa, it's stretched?
Yeah. Yeah, look at my thumb. It's like an inch and a half out.
Do you really think that happened from that?
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
Because, I mean, you know, you play an octave, which is like from C to C, from same note to same note is an octave, you know, one note up. But I can play C to E, which is...
Oh, wow, stretching it. Okay.
Right, and you sort of roll over the notes to hit the chord and then hit the bass.
I might have been good
That's what's called stride. So your hand is sort of striding across the keyboard.
That seems like a step ahead of like
regular. I've had people, not often, but I've had quite a few people come over and look while I'm playing, and then they're like, "Oh, I just wanted to see if you were really playing because it doesn't look like you are." They thought I was just standing there moving my hands fast.
It's almost like you look like one of those cartoon characters who are just like, "What am I?" Do you know what I'm describing?
Yeah, yeah.
Like who just are wildly playing, and then it's like, "Is that real?" Yeah. Do people walk over sometimes upstairs?
Yeah.
People who are interested in music and stuff.
Oh yeah, especially.
That's so cool. Did you see Whiplash? Side note.
This about the music teacher.
Yeah.
Yes,
that was so good, right?
Yeah. I didn't have an experience like that.
Did you see the Quincy documentary?
No.
Quincy Jones on Netflix.
Oh no,
it's incredible.
I will have to.
I had no idea. Like I knew his name, but I didn't know how
producer.
much. Oh my god! It was
insane. The guy has done everything. He is the music industry,
and he's like such a good guy.
Yeah.
And like so sweet. I don't know. It was interesting. I don't know much about music, but I'm always interested to like hear about it. You know
I don't know anything about music.
You don't?
No. People are always like, what about this song? I've never listened to top 40 music.
Mm-hmm. What music do you listen to at home?
Big band, jazz, classical, Latin, Brazilian.
And you liked show tunes, didn't you?
Yeah, musicals, musical
write
theater.
A bunch of?
Yeah, I've written 6 book musicals.
Okay.
With my writing partner.
Wow.
And it's you know what? It's easier to get a movie made than to get a musical done.
Really?
Oh yeah. Because like a movie, like our friend Jody, manager here at the Comedy Store, just did a movie. It was a sequel
for Jennifer.
But
the very first,
I liked it. It was good. And really? What was really neat was he had real comedy in a horror movie, which is super hard to do.
Yeah.
And I watch almost nothing but horror movies.
Really?
And then working at the Comedy Store, I'm like, all right, you're really going to make me laugh. And it was really funny.
Really?
Nick was great in it. And
Have you ever seen a ghost here?
Sure.
You have? Oh, God, yeah. I'm all over the place.
Yeah, right? Piano, ghosts, independent movie.
Mind takes me.
A musical, you've got musicians, and so you've got to pay the musicians. The actors get paid a little. Whereas like the Jennifer movie, the first one they did was one guy and his cell phone. It was, and they touted it as the first movie shot and edited completely on an iPhone. But that's doable.
Yeah.
You can't do a musical like that. As a matter of fact, when my theater company produced my last musical, we got a one review from a gay reviewer, and he didn't get that it was a parody of a movie at all. But he spent a lot of time talking about the fact that the music was pre-recorded, and I spent a year sitting here in between comics arranging this music, learning how to arrange on the computer. And
what does arrangements mean?
Arrangement. Okay, basically, when you write a song, it's piano.
Okay,
the bottom hand and top hand. Then when you arrange a song, you're taking that and giving all those different notes to different instruments. So it's like the guitar plays this part, so you have to have sheet music for just the guitar. Drums play this. Piano plays this.
How do you know what plays what?
It's how you decide it. That's part of the arranging thing. It's up to you to hear how it sounds.
Music is so creative.
Yeah.
And can just go, and there's no real.
But we got this guy panned it because we didn't have live music, and it's disco parody music. So fun. I gave it all this disco drum beats and sound effects from the 80s, 70s disco shit. But yeah, he just panned us for not having live music. And I'm like, sorry, we didn't have $10,000 to pay musicians, which is about what it would have cost.
Whoa, really?
To just have 3 musicians for the run of the show. Yeah. Unless I had friends that could do it. And I don't know. That's not a circle I'm in,
Yeah.
And
do you love
musicians?
Obviously.
Oh, yeah.
I've never
seen
Rocky Horror.
But musicians don't work for free. Really?
Yeah. Everyone thinks that's why.
Shame on you.
I don't know. It doesn't appeal to me. I don't really like them.
Oh, I went to the original. My sister was the original Magenta when they started showing Rocky Horror in Cleveland.
Oh, the person who goes out of the movie theater? Because is that the thing you're talking about?
It's one of the characters in the movie. And she even hung out with Tim Curry. He came a few times to see screenings there. You have a picture of her and her friend with Tim Curry.
Nice.
We are all over the place, aren't we?
I know. Sorry.
Musicals, piano, ghosts.
Keep up. So let's talk about Pee Wee Herman.
Oh, my God.
So
my infamous 6 years.
Tell me all about it.
Well, in 1985, I moved to Provincetown.
Rhode Island?
Cape Cod.
Oh.
Cape Cod. And I got a job. I was playing piano for the blue-haired old lady bus tours.
Oh.
They had a piano in the lobby of the Provincetown Inn. And so I'd play piano there, and then when they had these bus tours come down, they would put the piano in the dining area, and I'd play my ragtime and stuff. And then I got, I just sort of, I didn't have to work that summer.
You just moved to Cape Cod?
Well, it's Provincetown is a huge gay theatrical community.
Oh.
And it's less than it's like a half a mile strip.
So is that
and there's
the
like
first place?
700 bars and nightclubs
Wow.
and restaurants in this half a mile, and
The
lots
New
of
England
drag
WeHo.
queens. Yeah, exactly. But there's tons of performing there, and my mentor had been there a few times before, and he's like, "You need to go down there. You should move down there.
Up there,
right from Cleveland." Yeah. So, I did. I moved in 85, and like I said, I played piano at this one place, and then I brought a Halloween costume with me. Why? I don't know. I had done Waylon Flowers' puppet Madam once for Halloween. Okay. And you
have
don't
no
have
idea what
no
that
idea
is.
who that is. Madam's Place was a TV show. He was a puppeteer. He didn't do a ventriloquist puppet, but Madam was like we're right beside him, and the spotlight would be on Madam.
I think I know what you're.
Right. She had a big chin and nose.
Yes.
It was like a balls and dick is what
I've seen
the
that.
real Madam is. So I brought that costume with me, and there was a bar called the Pied Piper, and on one night a week they had like an open mic, type thing. So I went up as Madam and did like a little silly song or a little like stand up thing or something, and a guy that was. I think I played piano for somebody that I met, and I accompanied them on that show. And a guy that was a 6'4" Liza Minnelli impersonator had a show coming up, and his pianist had canceled on him for like the 4 weekends. And he asked me if I could do it. And he's like, you could do your madam thing in the middle of the show, while I'm changing costumes. And I'm like, sure, okay. So we did these, weekend shows at the Crown and Anchor. And audience members were telling him that, your piano player looks like Pee Wee Herman. Now, this is when Pee Wee was like brand new, 1980. Well, on the national scene, he was sort of brand new.
Uh-huh.
He'd been doing, the Pee Wee show as a sketch at the Groundlings. But I think this was after he had done the first HBO special.
Okay.
So, or Showtime, whatever it was.
So people knew who it was all around.
Yeah, and they're like, your pianist looks like him. And he's like, hey, you should do this character in our show. And I'm like, who is he? And went to somebody's house and stayed up and watched Johnny Carson one night when Pee Wee was on it. And this guy...
were you like, damn, I do look like him?
No.
Okay.
I still don't think I look like him.
Uh-huh.
It's just, I look like him like I could look like Santa Claus. You put on some makeup and, I don't see some people look at my photo and they're like, that's not, oh my God, you look exactly identical. I'm like, I don't think so. But I did, we went and found a little suit at a thrift store. And so I started, doing some Pee Wee type stuff. And I did all my own material. When you impersonate somebody, you have to, legally, you can't use their full name or whatever, and, you can't do their material.
Yeah.
And then after that summer, when I got back to Cleveland, I started going down to a stand-up club in Akron, Hilarities, on open mic night, and continuing the little Pee Wee thing. And they asked me would I MC open mic. And so I emceed as Pee Wee open mic for like a year and started to get, some private gigs and, a couple stand-up spots here and there. Again, all with my own material and stuff. And then I got hired in 1987 to be a mime at the Sea Lion and Otter Show at SeaWorld of Ohio. The original SeaWorld was in Ohio.
Oh, really?
Because it's nowhere near the ocean. Huh. So that's why it was there. And they had they were doing a brand new evening show that was like mixed fireworks with lasers, and it was the first outdoor lasers. I mean, now every theme park has a laser show, but this was the very first one in the country.
Wow!
Ever. Coordinated to music and, where lasers shoot all over the people, across people's heads and make patterns on the water and stuff. And so I was, they decided that they asked me to host that show also. And the girl that was producing it just had this character called the Maestro. And I was just going to be like Bugs Bunny conducting an orchestra, basically very simple. Well, so I'm not doing Pee Wee at SeaWorld. I'm doing mime during the day, and I'm going to be doing this Maestro character in the show in the evening. And my best friend, hi, Corey.
Hi, Corey.
Corey was, now he produces the Nightly News with Lester Holt, so I guess he's doing okay. Mm-hmm. But at that time, he was a producer on a local morning show called The Morning Exchange. And every year, The Morning Exchange would do their summer kickoff show live from SeaWorld. And, people would come, and the park was open, so you'd have people in the stands. And they had been wanting to do an interview with me about Pee Wee, because by 87, Pee Wee was really big.
Yeah.
And so Corey's like, oh, well, Jeff works at SeaWorld, we'll tie it all in. So I went on the morning show as Pee Wee, totally unrelated to what I was doing at SeaWorld. Interview segment, and at the end of the segment, the announcer of the morning show says, you can see Jeff every night hosting the laser show here as, Pee Wee. And, thank you and good night. And the show was, the TV show ended. And I was mobbed by kids that were there wanting, autograph and a picture taken. And what I didn't know was that the president of SeaWorld, the big president from San Diego, was there that day. And he came over to him and he's like, I want to see you in, the vice president's office after you're done. And I'm like, oh, fuck.
You thought you were in trouble.
What did I do? Well, I can't. And I'm racing my head. I'm like, what did I say something wrong? Did I, are they upset that I was on as Pee-wee instead of as a mime? Or as the Maestro character? And that show hadn't even opened. We were just rehearsing it. And he said, well, I saw how the people reacted there. And he said, I think you should do the laser show as Pee-wee. And I said, okay, 2 things. I get more money and I get full control of the show because you guys don't know how Pee-wee acts and I do.
Yes.
So I'll need to rewrite the script, which I still feel bad because there was a girl that wrote that show and produced it. And literally, they handed the reins over to me after she had put this whole thing together.
May the best man win.
It was wildly popular.
Whoa!
And so I did that show for 2 years.
Wow.
2 shows a night, 7 nights a week. And I stopped after a couple months. A month after stopped doing mime during the day because it was just too much work.
Yeah.
But. Suddenly I'm doing Pee-wee every single night, and I'm getting more and more gigs around town and this and that. And then during the winter, the Ohio Park is closed. So they were deciding where would the Pee-wee character fit into a live show, at the San Diego Park or at the Florida Park. And at San Diego, they had a show called City Streets, which was literally the set was like walking into a New York street.
Yeah.
The actual set was the New York set from the movie Annie. The SeaWorld bought, and then they made stadium seating around it. And so you would walk into this, and you'd see break dancers in this show, and BMX stunt bikers, and skateboarders, and pop lockers, and then I came out on my scooter as Pee-wee, and did a little dance thing and a rap, and then I emceed, I think the bike race or something part of it. Well, they sent me out to SeaWorld. I start rehearsing, and literally the day that I'm going on first time, in front of an audience, the stage manager gets a call and says, you can't go on.
What?
You can't go on. You got to go see the president. And I'm like, oh, okay. And they're like, yeah, Pee-wee's people found out about this, and because it's a copyrighted trademark character, they're saying, hey, you can't use this, which absolutely understandable. Well, they came to a non-written agreement that I could do it as long as I only said Pee-wee and that, blah, 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 and my own stuff and all. Of course, there's nothing in writing, so I was never able to, prove that they had that back deal, but they did allow us to do it. And so I, finished the winter there and went back to the Ohio Park, did the summer. And I got a call just after I'd gone back to the Ohio Park for the second summer. I got a call from a lookalike agency in Los Angeles that had found out about me somehow. And they said, it was while I was in San Diego. That's right. They said that they need body doubles to shoot test posters for a movie sequel, Big Top Pee-wee, sequel to Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Because they'll do this a lot of times. They'll have concept art. They had 12 posters. And basically, if they paid Paul Rubens to come in, let's say that's $100,000 he gets. Then you also have to pay the photographer and the artists that, manipulate the picture and all. So for that $100,000, they can get a body double and slap Paul's face on my body.
Yeah.
Just for the mock-up.
Yeah.
Long story long, I got the gig. And I shot these different posters.
So you're now doing that at this level. Are you what's your emotion with tied to all that? Are you what the fuck? I can't believe I'm here. Are you cool? Are you nervous? Are you?
No, it was just this is just another gig.
Just going with the flow?
Yeah, just another gig. I already made enough money to be living in LA and work on my own terms, and so hey, this will be cool. Well, actually, no, San Diego. I wasn't in LA yet. Anyway, so I go up to from San Diego, I go up to LA and I do this photo shoot, and we do all the posters. And then I finish my contract at the San Diego park, go back to the Ohio park, and about 2 days before we open the second summer of the laser show, I get a call from the lookalike agency again, and they're like, they want to use you for the final poster, which just doesn't happen. The photographer told me, he said, you won't be on the real poster. These are just mock-ups. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. Still cool.
Yeah.
And it was basically, I got the job because of two things. One, because of my professional mime background, so my body language to be, the weird Pee-wee contorted stuff, the poses, and the fact that my suit was exactly the same as his.
How'd you get the exact same suit?
Spent a lot of time at thrift stores.
Yeah.
With a picture of him trying to find that Prince of Wales plaid.
Wow. And you have to, like, all those different poses, like, you can balance on your toes, right?
Yeah.
Can you still do that?
No, I wouldn't even dare. My ankles would snap. Yeah. Well, I also.
That's hard, right?
In all the musicals I did, I was also dance captain, so I had a lot of dance background.
Wow.
So. But they called me and they said, "Look, we want you to come back and do this final poster." And they said they liked the one where you're flying off the trapeze, but Paul wants the legs coming off the trapeze, and the way they had made it. The legs were attached, and they're like, and Paul supposedly said, well, how'd you do this? And they said, we hired a body double. And he said, well, he looks, and they showed him my photo, and he said, oh, he looks just like me. Can't you use him again? I want to go on vacation. He had already had a beard and everything, was finished shooting that movie. So, I mean, he said, use me. And thank you, Paul. I've never met him.
Paul.
I never met him.
Shout out to Paul.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So I got flown back out to LA to do the final poster. And I had so many friends that thought that I was lying about this. And they're like, that's not you. And I'm like, well, it's my body and my suit. It's from the neck down, it's all me.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, sure. Why would they do that? And I would explain people, this is how it's done in Hollywood, and they're like, yeah, right. And I'd say, well, look at my left hand. See this scar on my thumb from where I sliced my hand open with a X-Acto knife when I was a kid? I said, there it is on the poster. They didn't Photoshop. They didn't see the scar on my hand. So the scar is visible on the poster.
Yeah.
So it was like, there's my watermark.
Yeah, I love that.
And then I had a guy want me to sell him my costume. He offered me $2,000 for the suit.
Whoa.
And I'm like, that goes in my collection. That's where my nieces
you still have
get
it.
all that. Oh, yeah, I have that.
Do you wear it ever?
Well, and then what happened was Pee-wee's management company got a hold of me and asked me to go out and promote the line of toys. So the Pee-wee toys.
Yeah.
So I made appearances at like JCPenney's all over the country for a couple months.
And people thought it was him.
No. It always said Jeff Scott, Pee-wee's double.
Oh.
Yeah, like I said, legally you can't.
Yeah.
And I never said I was Pee-wee Herman.
Right.
Never. My photos all said Jeff Scott as Pee-wee printed there. And I only signed Pee-wee. I never ever signed Pee-wee Herman. Although some guy lied and ruined something for me like that. I was doing, when I first moved back to LA and was just living here, I got signed for a year contract to make appearances at a custom car show. Huh. They have like, when I was a kid, I went to a custom car show and I got autographs of Adam West, Batman.
Oh.
And, Bill Bixby, the Incredible Hulk, and, TV people would show up.
That.
Right. So it was, meet Jeff Scott, Pee-wee's double. That's what the ad said.
That's so cool.
Exactly. And, I'd come out and do a little Pee-wee thing and then just sit there basically. And, I had my headshots, Jeff Scott as Pee-wee, and I'd autograph it to each kid and blah, 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 and go through the whole day, different city every weekend. And we were in Florida, and they, during the break, they said there's some sort of problem. You can't go back out this afternoon. I'm like, okay, whatever. And they're like, yeah, some guy has made a whole big stink saying that, and of course he had nothing to prove it, but he's like, no, I was told that it was the real Pee-wee Herman and it wasn't. You guys are switching bait and I'm going to sue you. I'm going to sue you all. And he wrote a letter to Pee Wee's management. And Pee Wee's management got a hold of me, and they're like, cease and desist. You know, it's a trademark copy character. And I even called his manager and said, you know, look, I'll cut you in. I'll give you half of my money for all this stuff. And he says, no. He said, we don't allow that. And I told him about, you know, what we did at SeaWorld. And he's like, I don't know anything about that. Never heard of that. And I'm like, yeah, okay, guys, come on.
So all of a
that's
sudden,
why it wasn't.
just
That's why it wasn't written down. Anywhere. But basically, I had to, you know, after 3 or 4 months of every weekend going out on the road with these custom car shows, and I was making $1,200 a weekend.
Whoa!
So it would have been a nice first year in Los Angeles, paycheck wise.
Yeah,
it would have been a really good paycheck.
Yeah.
But they sent a cease and desist to the auto show people, and the auto show got fined $25,000 for copyright infringement.
Whoa.
Pee Wee's manager just told me, don't do it again unless we use you. You know, so I guess they let me off quite well.
Yeah.
But this fucking guy,
what a piece of shit.
whoever he was, and there's
always someone like that.
That's the thing.
Here,
and they were like saying, show us this. And he's like, well, it was in the ad. And it's like the ad says, it's a picture of my headshot. Jeff Scott as Pee Wee. Pee Wee's body double. Not Pee Wee Herman live. Pee Wee's double.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of... there was a guy that was the voice of Alf that went out with us. Do you think people were upset because it wasn't the real Alf?
Yeah.
You know.
Sorry, we couldn't get Alf from space.
Yeah, and this guy, I bet you this guy is just a miserable mensch that's what he does. Is just, you know, cause nasty shit and all.
Yeah.
But, so that put the kibosh on it.
So then...
But it got me to L.A.
Yeah, so then you moved to L.A. from there.
Yeah.
And then what?
I didn't do nothing for a year. My manager's like, come up with some other famous character you can impersonate. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have that. Literally, I auditioned like Joe actor type stuff. And, you know, there's a million guys that look like me in the city, just the average nerdy white guy. You know, it's not a hard ticket to fill. I booked... In a year after I stopped doing the Pee Wee thing, I booked one commercial. It was a national commercial.
That's still good.
Yeah.
I mean, more than...
And I was... Oh, you know what was interesting? The first night I moved to L.A., or one of the first nights, I went on a Tuesday to the Rage Disco.
Yeah.
And... my friend Beverly used to host a show there called The Gong Show, and she would perform as the lovely Carol was her name. She was a woman doing a drag woman.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. And there was this legal assistant on the show that night who did stand-up comedy. And she was very funny. And I went and I talked to her afterwards. I said, hi, my name's Jeff Scott. I just moved to L.A. And she says, hi, I'm Sherry Shepherd.
Oh.
And so, you know, bought her a drink, and we were just talking. I mean, literally. So I met Sherry, like, you know, the first week I was in L.A. And she says, well, we go to this club across the street called the Rose Tattoo, where it's a singer's cabaret, but they put comics on in between singers. And I'm like, oh, when's that? And she's like, now. I'm going over there now. Would you like to go? And I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. So I go over. Now, again, first week in L.A., you know.
Wow.
Don't really know anybody. And standing at the door is Linda Gerard, the owner of the Pied Piper from Provincetown, where I started doing Pee Wee. And I'm like, what are you doing here? And she's like, this is my winter club. This is where I live. What are you doing here? And I said, I just moved here. And she's like, well, welcome. And I started performing there, and I did a bunch of cabaret musicals, and I did some Pee Wee stand-up and stuff. But it was just so nuts to have that, like, you know,
I just got
turnaround connection from 85 to, I mean, you know, a couple of years later, from one side of the coast to the other, to be working at the same woman's club doing the same thing.
Where was that place? On Santa Monica, too?
It was under Studio One. Studio One is the old disco. It's closed now. And in the back of Studio One was a big cabaret room called the Backlot, and then down in the basement of that was the Rose Tattoo.
I like that name.
The Rose Tattoo.
Yeah, that's a cool name.
It's based on I think it's a movie.
Did you move to West Hollywood?
Yeah.
How did West Hollywood and what is that, the 90s, right?
No, I moved here in 87.
Oh, 87. I was born in 87. How did that Cape Cod gay scene compare to the West Hollywood 80s scene?
Completely
Was
different.
it still like that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was still disco, and, the bars were packed. And I went to the bar 7 nights a week. There was a different disco, just like, in Provincetown and just like in Cleveland. There were always bars back then.
But, is it crazier here in West Hollywood?
I don't know if it's crazier. Yeah. I mean, certainly a lot more gorgeous people. But in Provincetown, everybody is super friendly and nice, and everybody's on vacation usually. So, they're enjoying themselves. And, Cleveland, normal hometown gays.
Yeah. Have you ever?
And then I got to LA, and it was like, oh, everybody's a little standoffish here, because I'm not, Joe
bitchy?
Gorgeous. Yeah, very cliquey.
Have you been to Fire Island?
Never.
Oh. I used to
but
go
that's
there
what
when I was
that's what
younger.
Provincetown is like.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I just thought of that.
In fact, tons of people that have shops in Provincetown have shops in Fire Island.
Yeah.
And that's where they winter.
Yeah, because that's like the
so it's the exact
big place
same
on
scene.
the East Coast, because I'm from New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool. And then, so how did you end up working at the store?
Oh, my next door neighbor. Okay, so let's see. What was I doing? Oh, I ended up getting a real job. I worked for 3 years for an entertainment attorney, which was fun because he had all these famous clients and stuff. And it was just up the street from my house. So all I did was answer phones and very simple stuff. Since I never had a real job, it was like, oh, I guess I have to. I mean, I spent like a year after they stopped me from doing the Pee Wee stuff trying to, do other acting shit.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, I guess I have to really pay bills now that I've gone through my money.
Yeah.
And so while I was working for this attorney, after 3 years or so, I quit one day, and I came home. And, let me back up. I'm working for this attorney, and my next door neighbor, I came home one day, and my next door neighbor hands me this piece of paper with a phone number, and he said, hey, public access television had ads back then. And there was an ad that said a Hollywood nightclub seeks pianists and a phone number. And he gave it to me, and I'm like, oh, okay, thanks. I don't, read sheet music, so I can't really sit and, play for singers and stuff like that. And just out of curiosity, I called, and they answered, Comedy Store. And I, said I'm calling about the piano job, and I talked to Mike Becker, and he said, gee, I wish you had, you know what happened? I let the number sit there for a couple weeks. Because I was just like, this is not, and then
But you saved it for a reason.
Just out of curiosity, I don't know why I kept it.
You know what? I truly think people energetically get pulled into here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm definitely meant to be here.
Story with it too, but
yeah. So that number just sat there for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and one day I finally decided to call. And ended up talking to Mike Becker, the vice president, that was the head piano player. And he's like, man, I wish you had called me a couple of weeks ago. Because I said, my friend Steve Moore is a piano player at your club. And he's like, oh, my God, that does it.
Is that the main room guy?
Steve was,
yeah. Okay.
And so he's like, I wish you had called a couple of weeks ago because we've already hired somebody. He said, but I'll keep your name on file. And then I got a temp job because I'd left the law office. Got a temp job, and I was there for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, just doing data input at a textile company. And, excuse me, one day I went in, and they're like, today's your last day. And I'm like, well, okay, it's, it's a couple weeks before Christmas, and at least I have enough money that January and February's bills are paid, so I'm not super stressed right now. And I went home, and there was only one message on my answering machine that day. And it said, hi, this is Mike Becker from the Comedy Store. I talked to you.
That day?
Yeah, the day that the temp thing ended. And he said, would you I guess the other guy didn't work out or something, and they're like, "Would you like to come in and audition?" And I went in, and I auditioned for Mike, and he's like, "Holy fuck, you can really play." And I said, "But I don't read ear. I just like sort of play by ear." And he's like, "That's great." He said, "We have comics that do song improv." And I said, "Well, I've worked for 7 sketch groups playing piano with them, and so I'm very good at song improv stuff." And December 9th, I started. It was like the very next week I started.
And then that night, and
I figured, okay, I'll be at this gig for a couple years because I was, being an actor, you go gig to gig to gig. That's how I look at it, And I thought, this will be just, another little thing. I'm here, one night a week, and then suddenly they fired another piano player because they liked me better.
Yes.
And well, that guy also was pretty awful. I won't name names. Ha ha. But he didn't sit in the original room behind the piano. He stood. He stood up and he had the piano, elevated on the stand, so it was standing height. And as people would come in the room, he'd be like, "Hey, lady in the blue coat, sit in the front. No one will call you fat, even though you are."
So he was trying to. It was annoying, though.
Awful.
Yeah.
It's just so fucking hacky awful.
Well,
and he trained me. And literally, I came in one night, and he's like, "Hey, can you just play for the next couple guys?" And it was like, an hour after the show started, and I'm thinking he wants to sit in the back and hear me play. He went home. and I ended up working for free my first night.
Well,
cheap fuck, but then he got fired.
Yeah.
Because Mitzi didn't like that type of shit, and she really liked what I played. And Steve Moore was my recommendation. Steve Moore had a special called Drop Dead Gorgeous, The Power of HIV Positive Thinking. And Steve, he passed away from HIV. But, it was like, Mitzi had, and at that time, Steve had become a paid regular, so he wasn't playing piano. And so now it was like, Mitzi has another gay piano player with HIV. Jeff instead of Steve.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she just took me right under her wing because, Steve married my friend Lois Bromfeld to get her one of our female comics from the olden days.
From Canada.
Sorority Girls from Hell.
Right?
Yes, yeah. And Paulie and Peter, I think Scotty too, I'm not sure. They didn't want to move to West Hollywood when Mitzi won the club in the divorce settlement. So Mitzi rented a house in Beverly Hills.
So they could stay in the school district?
Yeah, and made Steve and Lois, a gay man and a gay woman legally married to each other, made them their guardians. So they sort of raised, the boys.
And
so
she
the fact
lived
that
in
I
Westwood?
was
Or what's the Stohini house?
That's where she had moved to. They were
Doheny,
living in Beverly Hills, and then,
they stayed in Beverly Hills.
Right. The boys wanted to stay in their school system. So when Mitzi moved to the house on Doheny, she made Steve and Lois the boys' legal guardians and rented a house in Beverly Hills so they could stay. So they were legally in the city.
How old were they for that?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Probably like 7th grade, 6th grade, somewhere around there.
And then I hear this Doheny house was like fucking crazy.
Oh, it was an exquisite mansion.
Where it was? Where is that? Is that like
you go up, down Sunset?
Yeah.
To Doheny, and you make a right.
Right. And all those incredible houses up there.
Yeah, and it's like the house is sort of set back. There's a pool right in the front and bushes all the way around it. And I can't remember. I always say Lana Turner, and that is absolutely wrong. But it used to be some mega famous old movie star's house. It was just an exquisite. You like walk in, and there's just this huge staircase that went up and a little room for a secretary to sit in,
really?
And yeah.
Ooh, a secretary.
Yeah. I was just looking through some old videos, and I have some stuff from Mitzi's 80th birthday. And now that she's passed, I think maybe some of those photos I'll go ahead and post. She didn't like her pictures being posted and stuff, But I'll send you some so you can see the house.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to.
Amazing.
So,
huge
did
house.
you used to go up to some of those parties?
Just her 80th. I was really only up there a few times, like during the day to, pick her up or, run an errand or something. But I did when Mitzi was first getting ill. Paulie called me one day and he's like, bro, Mitzi wants you to stay with her tonight.
Just stay over there?
She needed some, and it was like before she had full-time caretakers. Yeah. I was the first in a long line of Comedy Store employees that would stay over. And yeah, it was so funny. I've told this on other podcasts, though, but middle of the night, Mitzi buzzed me on the intercom because I was downstairs in the guest room. And she needed help getting into the bathroom. And she just needed some hands. She could still walk, at that point, but she wasn't steady on her feet. So just help her get into the bathroom. And then we're, she's coming back out, and I'm helping her walk back. And her bed was like one of those California queens, gigantic, like 3, 4, 5 feet off of the ground. And Mitzi was, 4.5 feet if. And I just said, here, let me just pick you up. And I picked her up and I sat her down into the bed, but I lost my balance and I was going to fall over on top of her. So I straddled her instead. I put my right arm and right knee over instead of, landing right on her. I stretched over. So I'm literally like on all fours on top of her. And it's like 3:30 in the morning and Mitzi looks up at me and goes, oh, Scott, are you coming on to me? I thought you were gay. And I rolled over and we sat there like little school kids just laughing.
Oh, my God.
And I know there are many, many, many people that had those experiences with Mitzi, but there's a million more that never had that type of an experience,
Yeah.
With our queen.
I'm
getting, that one gets me goosebumps now that she's passed, but it's just like, my special memory.
I love that. God, I wish I
And it was that night we sat in her bed and we watched old comic specials and she just talked shit about everybody.
Really? Who did she
We made popcorn and just whoever was on TV. Oh, he used to fuck the worst hookers. Just stuff like that. Oh, God, it was hysterical.
That's so fun. So you work in the original room, which a lot of comics say is the hardest room in the country, right? Or in the world?
I would believe so, yeah.
And there's a whole thing about the sound, right? With the way, do you understand that whole thing?
Well, I know the whole room is black.
Yeah.
And the lights are super bright on the stage. And that's how Mitzi wanted it. So you have to listen for the laughs. You can see a little of the audience and all, but it's more like in the main room, you can see everything.
Yeah.
It's fully lit. But in the original room, it's very dark, and, you have to, am I hearing laughs? No. Shit, I better change up my comedy. So that was all intentional.
But isn't there a whole thing about, the way the sound bounces around? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm. I don't know.
I don't know how to explain it. But, yeah, Bill Burr and Louis C.K. all say that it's the hardest room.
Yeah. Earlier this year, I went out back to Sacred Ground one night, and Mark Maron and Ron White were sitting back there having cigars, and we started talking about the OR.
Yeah.
And Mark Maron,
right?
One of the premier comics. I mean, a legend.
Yeah.
And he said, I can barely try 2 new jokes in there before I have to go to my material that I know works because the lineups are so strong now, and these young guys are so strong, But that's great. So
everyone is terrified.
Yeah, but it also, so somebody like Mark, if he's terrified and thinking about it, that tells you what a brand new, open micer or a doorman going up to start the show or a new paid regular goes through. And it's very intimidating. I get nervous when I walk up on that stage when nobody's in the room.
Really?
Just setting up the mics.
In that room.
There absolutely is. And it's also, it's like I'm up there and because I never did stand up as me. I was always a character.
Yeah.
I've never wanted to be me.
Okay.
I was always an old man or some sort of character thing. And you just go up there as yourself, and it's you and a mic and 150 people sitting there, and it's so raw, and that scares the hell out of me. I've gone up like with guys' acts. They've made me part of something and all, and that's fine. I go up and it's like, oh, I'm performing now.
Yeah.
But when I'm just alone setting up the mics and I think about, I'm standing here holding the mic and just going check, check, 1, 2, and looking around, and I think, if this room was full, I'd wet my pants right now. I would not be able to be funny, because this stage is just, the people that I've seen on that stage, you're right, it's intimidating. And it's just a teeny little stage in a black room, but
I love it.
Oh my God, it's amazing. The energy, like you said, the energy in there is just insane. It's palpable.
Yeah. Yeah, I've felt sick to my stomach before having to, but I think working here has it's so beneficial because you get over it, because you get on that stage so many times.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll be totally fine for months, and then one time out of nowhere I'll be like, I don't know why I'm so anxious right now.
Yeah.
There's this energy in the room, especially even on Mondays, everyone together, all of their energy combined.
Right.
All the open micers waiting to go up in there. It's I don't even want to be in this room right now, because it's I just need to get it off me.
Yeah.
Do you think there's kind of and this was a question Stephen thought of. Do you think
Stephen, how is your husband?
He's good. I
think of him fondly.
Aw.
Hello, Mr. Randolph.
Hi, Stephen.
He asked me to talk about him.
He did?
Yeah.
Oh, did you just see him?
Yeah.
A second ago?
Yeah. There, I talked about you. Now shut the fuck up.
Do you think there's do's and don'ts of performing in the OR?
Yeah.
Or even just to piggyback on that.
Give the mic to an audience member.
You mean don't put it down in front of them?
Don't hand it to them.
Oh, you mean you
Ever.
hold it?
The comics, I've seen comics instead of, if they want to talk to somebody, instead of holding the mic in front of them, handing them the mic. You never give a non-paid regular the microphone.
Okay.
Period. You just don't. It's just
power.
Control. That's a rule. You don't go on that stage unless you're invited.
Yeah.
That's for, paid regulars only. Once in a while, I'll see waitresses walk up there and they serve, and I'm like, Mitzi.
On the stage?
Yeah, to serve the front row. Before the show.
I don't like that.
Well, Mitzi would fire them.
Yeah.
Instantly for doing that.
Yeah.
The only person that goes up on stage is a paid regular. Period.
Yeah. Do you see, is there anything else obviously you watch people on that stage for 22 years, did you say?
Mm-hmm.
Are there things that you can, what are things that you can see from people performing, do you know what I'm saying?
Not really. This is a great podcast question, though.
It is?
I don't know what it is.
I'm trying to find it. Okay, so after watching everyone on that stage for 22 years, besides the mic, is there anything else that you see that people do or don't do that works and doesn't work? Or
sometimes people will just talk over the audience. In other words, they don't move around and make individual eye contact. They'll stand dead center and just sort of stare above the heads of the audience.
You know what? I notice a lot of people stare above everyone and but they're very talented comics. But I'm where are they looking?
Right.
Because for me personally, if I'm not connecting with people's faces, then
I would want to see their faces.
Then it feels like a disconnect in my performance. But these people are doing. I have two people in mind who do that, but I'm not going to mention their names. But I always thought that was interesting. And then I'm like, am I supposed to be seeing through everyone? No, right? Because then you're not, I don't know.
Yeah.
So you're talking about, so people should be connecting and moving around.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes I don't move around
enough. Some people like to sit.
Yeah.
But that's also generally something that you do when you're at a different level.
Maron. He deserves to sit.
Or Chappelle, right.
Yeah.
They can sit,
Yeah. Do you like playing along
Bob
with people?
Schmo has to stand. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Kyle. Done again.
Kyle, yeah. Kyle does a little singing thing, and sometimes I do some
Brent Morin.
stuff. Yeah, improv stuff with Brent and with Jade.
Jade.
Cataprata.
Adam
and
Ray.
Brent Morin, Adam
I can
Ray.
think of everyone.
So that's 4 right there.
Yeah. But is that fun when you get? Is that?
Oh,
like,
yeah,
oh, that's
yeah.
Because that's probably like a fun, like different, like oh.
Well, I look
now
at
get to have-
when I get my lineup at the. Excuse me, I have a hiccup. Oh, 2 of them. When I get my lineup at the top of the night, I look down at and I see like which people are like, oh, okay, I do a music bit with them or something. I just write a little music note beside their name so I remember. Like
That's fun.
Make sure you're there, and
That's a way to break up the boringness of the night.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's not as much as it used to be. Like I said, when I played piano years ago in the main room, guys would, open and close with a song or do full singing impressions, and I'd learn their music and stuff. But
who else? Any other like crazy stories or interesting stories stick out to you of maybe like big names you've seen over the year? Oh, didn't you smoke weed with Robin Williams the night he relapsed? Can we talk about that?
Rick Ingram's birthday. I think it was Rick's 21st.
And Robin was in the audience?
Robin came in and was watching. Rick was already on stage, so Rick didn't know Robin came in. And he was watching this young kid. And for those of you who don't know Rick, he's a off the top of his head crowd work.
He's incredible.
Sharp, sarcastic, mean-spirited,
like
lovely. Yeah, he's absolutely amazing. And so Robin was watching him. And then we were after Rick's set, we were in the bar. We were getting drinks to toast Rick's birthday, and Robin came
just in the kitchen.
In the kitchen, yeah. Robin came into the kitchen, and Rick started doing what we call drunk Argus, because Rick would like to imagine what it was like back when Argus, before he was sober. And Rick is one of these guys that like he'll see the name on a wall, he'll ask you somebody, who is that person, what did they do, and then it's stuck in his memory banks, for future call up. So we're doing toasts, and hey, come on, Robin, have a drink with us. And of course, none of us are thinking he's sober, and that just wasn't in our head. And he decided to have a shot or a drink or something, and then we went back to Sacred Ground to smoke, and he came out and he smoked with us. And Robin's you would think, okay, Robin Williams, he's going to be performing. He's on all the time. He watched Rick. He was just, there were like 8 of us back there, and Rick held court doing different characters and talking about like old people that he never met, just making up stories, talking shit off the top of his head. And Robin was just, doubled up laughing. Can you imagine making Robin Williams laugh?
So cool.
Like that. Yeah. And so he smoked a lot with us that night. I can't remember if he had another drink or something. And then literally the next day or very next day, it was in the news. Robin Williams checks back into rehab. And we were all like, oh, fuck, what did we do?
Did you?
Yeah. I don't know if Rick feels. Do you feel guilty about it, Rick? I didn't think so. But yeah, it's sort of like, But it's also like it's horrible because we're like, come play with us. We want to have a memory.
Yeah. Well,
and we do.
You got one. Were you here when he was he performing when you were here?
No, but he would do pop-ins.
Really?
I probably saw him like maybe half a dozen or more times pop in.
What about like Jim Carrey?
I have never seen Jim Carrey except for at Mitzi's memorial. He was here.
Wasn't he a door guy?
Yeah, I think so.
People sometimes say that he wasn't, but I was told he was.
That's what I had heard.
Okay.
Let's ask him.
I know, right?
Jim,
let us know.
Hello, Jim.
Anyone else? Any other big
famous
names?
people? That I've worked with?
I don't know, that you've seen here, any kind of
like
weird nights. I know, like everyone. Well,
I remember a crazy night. I don't think I've told this story on a podcast. At the end of the night, we go around and turn all the lights off in the club. And years ago, there were like maybe 3 waitresses and a door guy. That was it. It wasn't a big staff or anything. So I would help out. And
really, just one door guy?
I guess maybe one on the back. I can't remember. But so I would, some nights pack up the piano and then help the manager turn off the lights and go around, shut everything off. And one night I walked into the main room to turn off the lights, and standing on stage was back to back was Ron Jeremy and Eddie Griffin. And they both had their pants down, and they both had a girl in front of them sucking their dicks.
Two?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
On the center of on the middle of the stage, the room was empty, but all the lights were on.
Did you see Ron Jeremy's dick?
No, it was in her mouth.
That's so funny.
And I just because you just walk in, you're gonna reach and turn the lights, and I look, and I'm like, oh.
Did they leave? You left the lights on.
Quietly backing out now. Jesus.
And so, the Comedy Store is haunted, right?
Yep.
What's your ghost stories?
Well, I've had 3 experiences. The club was Ciro's. The mob bought it in 1938 and gave it $1 million makeover and reopened it as Ciro's. And that from 40 to 41, the mob ran this place. And supposedly a lot of people were whacked. Certainly people who had their limbs broken and stuff, but there was one door guy, his name was Anthony, they called him Gus, was the nickname. And Gus was, a door guy, 40s type suit, everybody'd see him and stuff. And I don't remember why, I read it somewhere, but I don't remember why he got killed, but something happened, he did something wrong, and so the bosses had him whacked here. So Gus is a ghost that the one that most people
really
have seen. Now, these past couple of years that we've done all this major remodeling,
I
haven't heard anybody has seen anything. But so often people would especially if there was an outside show in the main room coming in.
Yeah.
And I remember a show, and this girl came back and she's like, can you help me? There's this guy standing back in the dressing room, so he won't talk to me. And I'm like, shouldn't be anybody back there. And it's like, there's this dude in old 40s clothes. He's just standing there looking at me.
In the green room?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, she came out of the green room. I was setting up chairs, and she said this to me. And we walked back there, and of course, there's nobody there. I'm like, oh, you saw Gus. That's our ghost. A lot of times people would see Gus out of the side of their peripheral vision. And it's like if I turn sideways and I'm looking at you, I can see you, and I can tell that you're a solid object, even though I'm not looking right at you. That's how people would see Gus. And then
he
when
was
they turned
a solid object.
Yeah, and then when they turned to look, there was nothing.
Oh my God, I didn't. Well, I've never. I get so scared talking about this. I've never seen a ghost before, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
Please don't show me one. And but I didn't expect to hear that they were solid. I always think of a misty sort of.
Right. Yeah. No, Gus is a solid.
Oh my God.
1940s clothing.
Have
and
you
that's how
seen
everybody.
him?
No.
Okay.
I never saw him. I've had 3 experiences, though. I was backstage in our main room in the dressing area using the restrooms, and Vicki Barbalak had opened the show, and all her makeup and stuff was still back there. And the backstage dressing rooms have marble floors. So a woman's high heels, click, 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 very distinct sound. So I'm standing up pissing, and I hear click, click, click coming towards the bathroom area, and I knew that Vicky's stuff was there. So I said, Vicky, I'm back here, just so she wouldn't jump or whatever. And I just sort of, leaned back out of the stall to look, and the person, according to where the heels I was hearing, should have just been 5-10 feet in front of me. And there was nobody there. And I ran into the next area, nobody there, nobody behind the bar, nobody behind the stage, and the show was going on. I could hear, this was over the show. I heard these click, click, these high heels walking in. And the second I said, Vicky, they stopped, and should have been, I turned around, and it should have been somebody standing almost right there.
So a female ghost.
I think so.
So
yeah.
Gus, a female. I'm just trying to learn about the ghost.
Well, there was one of the things that the mob did was illegal abortions.
Yeah.
So
down
there was,
here, right?
Up in the belly room.
Oh.
I
thought it was down here.
Yeah, somebody was saying that on a podcast. No, it was up here, up in the belly room. That's why it's called the belly room.
Are you serious?
Mitzi named
That's
it
why
the belly
it's called
room
that?
because of the abortions.
Shut the fuck up. Are you serious?
That's her sick sense of humor. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, then maybe they did abortions down here too. You know,
Okay.
it's hard to say, but
So-
most of the things I've read are
The mob
the
did
lady.
them up there.
Yeah, and a mob's girlfriend died during an abortion, and so they murdered the lady that did the abortions also, and her spirit. Both of those spirits, Eileen. One of them was Eileen. Can't think of the other lady's name, but those spirits used to haunt people here too. I was sitting like backstage, looking out at the main room show once, and I got where the booth, the stairs to go up to the sound booth are.
In the main, yeah.
In the main room, that little backstage area right by
Where the gun
front of the
bullets are?
clubs. Yeah. I was sitting like right in front of those steps, and the door that walks to the cover booth area was open, and that door catches on the carpet. It's like never closed all the way.
Yeah.
And I got up and I was back there not smoking pot. And at the end of the night, and the room was empty, and I heard somebody come into the room, and I just got up and looked around the corner to see who it was, and a glance around the corner, lean out, look, and when I leaned back, that door was 100% shut. And that door doesn't shut because it sticks on the carpet.
Yeah.
And the handle was turned and it was closed. And how that happened in a blink of an eye with no sound on a carpet that keeps the door open, I have no idea.
Wow.
So that was my second ghost experience. And then the night I saw something, we have an area called Sacred Ground, which is an alley behind our building. And there's just a door with a small square window about head high looking out into the Sacred Ground area. And I was going back there not to smoke marijuana. And there was somebody standing in front of the door with their back to me, and they had a white hoodie on because I could see this white hood over the back of a white hoodie. And so I slowly opened the door, and they started to move forward. And by the time I got the door completely open, they had moved up against those railroad ties, so 4 feet. And I suddenly realized that's not a person there. It's the easiest way to explain it is if you could blow a bubble in the perfect outline of a human being, except stop it like a foot above the ground.
So it's floating?
And it was full of smoke.
Oh my! See,
So
that's
it was
what I kind
it
of
was a
pictured.
solid
Yeah.
enclosed bubble with moving smoke in it, basically.
Oh my God!
Like smoke staying in the shape of this
spirit.
person. And when I used to do the ghost shows here, the haunted Halloween shows, I had some people come in and do some investigations on the club and stuff. And one of the things that they told me was that that's called a specter, where it doesn't touch the ground. It's not a ghost, it's a specter. And that means basically it doesn't have an absolute connection. It could, really, something just moved here. Oh, the camera fell.
That scared the shit out of me.
But this thing, like I said, it didn't touch the ground. It was like about a foot.
And what's a specter?
A specter is a spirit that is not necessarily connected. It could have been from the building next door. It could have been from the house behind
it doesn't
us.
connect to a property. It
Right,
floats around?
right.
Whoa.
Yeah, it could be wherever. So as I completely opened the door, this thing, like I said, moved up against the railroad ties, and I could see just smoke in a perfect outline of a human being, except it stopped about a foot above the ground.
Wow.
And this happened in the swinging of the door, a second, 2 seconds. Then as I stepped out over the threshold, it was like the edges, it was like the bubble popped. The whole thing stayed in the same shape, but the edges got sort of soft, and it moved down the alley in shape.
Oh my God.
Like smoke. If let's say somebody was
Slowly?
able to blow a bubble in a human shape that was 5 feet tall and fill it with smoke, when you burst that, the smoke would just dissipate.
Yeah. It
wouldn't
floated?
It wouldn't stay together and move. Yeah, it moved to the right.
Was
down.
it slow? How?
Yeah.
Quick? Oh my
Yeah.
God. That sounds like something out of
and
Ghostbusters.
I turned and I looked and I watched this thing going down the alley, and I turned around and just ran inside. And Tony Hinchcliffe was coming out right at that time, and I smashed into him, and I just ran past him. And then a little later at the night, Tony came and asked me, he said, "Did something happen to you?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You seemed like weird when you pushed past me there. So I told him what I had seen. He said, okay. He said, you're validating what I saw today. He said, I was doing the phones upstairs in the belly room area and went to use the men's bathroom. And he said he went down the hall, turned the corner, and he said that same, exactly how I described it, he said that thing was in the doorway of the men's bathroom. And he just turned around and went, nope, and walked downstairs to a different bathroom. So we both saw the exact same thing.
Oh, my God.
But he saw it during the day upstairs, and I saw it at night outside.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so, at least we both know that because when you see something like that, as much as you'd like to think, oh, I saw a ghost, usually it's like, something like we just heard a noise here while we were talking, and it's a camera that just
I know, but who
came
took
untaped.
Who did that, though? It's interesting timing.
Yeah.
So I've talked about ghosts and stuff down here. So that happened while we were talking. Another time, the lights have flickered. So who knows?
Yeah, weird.
Pee-wee laugh.
I meant to do that.
And then, that's crazy. So I guess...
because we've done all this remodeling in the past couple of years, people haven't seen anything
really
that I've heard of. But people would see Gus all the time. Especially like they'd walk into the main room and just see him standing over there and then, be like, who's that guy? And start to walk over and it's like, there's no one there. But I know I just saw somebody from the corner of my eye.
Fuck. I hope I never have that experience.
Yeah.
And then, so for Halloween, we'll finish on that. Halloween is your favorite holiday, right?
Gay Christmas.
I would guess. And for many years, you've been making these incredible costumes.
Yeah.
For how long have you been doing these big, crazy?
Since I was a little kid.
So you make your own. I mean, I've seen, I see the pictures on Facebook and stuff, and I saw that you had this whole kind of area in your place where you keep all of your costumes.
Oh, yeah. My hallway of costumes. Most people have photos and nice things, and I have
You display them.
Well, I have a display. I have my full Davy Jones and my werewolf and my mummy from when I was 18 years old. That was like the first like intricate costume where I sewed a bunch of stuff.
But this year I noticed, because I just started noticing the pictures on Facebook, you start weeks ahead of time.
Sometimes
paper macheing.
Sometimes a year. Like when I did that Recycle Raptor, which was it was a 10-foot by 14-foot dinosaur puppet. Basically, it was a back. I wore it on a backpack, and then with ski poles moved the feet.
Oh my God!
But that one, I worked on the whole design of that for like a year.
A year?
Yeah. Usually I'll start a couple like months before if it's something new. Like this Halloween I did Tarman from Return of the Living Dead. And I think like in August I started watching the movie and getting pictures of him and, doodling some stuff and trying some test makeup and
how do you know how to make these?
I don't know. Well, if in another life I would have probably liked to have been a special effects makeup artist.
Yeah, you're very good at it.
Thank you. I've done some makeup professionally. But it's really Halloween is like it's the night to sort of show off and say, look what I can do. Or look what else I can do.
Yeah. But you know what I was thinking? I was like, does he just go down to Santa Monica, dress in this crazy outfit and just interact with But do you go out with friends or by yourself?
It depends. Like my friend Eric Aligny went down with me this year, which was great because he took lots of photos.
But do you like interact
me chasing
with people?
Around with him. Yeah.
Okay.
This year it was not that big. This year there were only about 200,000 people, which is about the average.
I would hate that. Does that not bother you? Those crowds?
It's some years. I mean,
that's overwhelming.
We've had more than 500,000 people down there on a half a mile strip.
No, thank you.
I remember the Halloween after 9/11. One of the friendliest, biggest, most loving Halloweens because everybody just like said, fuck my costume. And they came out in red, white, and blue and Uncle Sam shit.
Really?
And, it's like everybody from all over LA, it's not just gay West Hollywood, comes to this event.
Yeah.
And it's one of the times when it's like, oh my gosh, here we all are, all these different ages, religions, races, sexes, and we're all getting together and having a great time. Why can't LA be like that every day?
Yeah.
And this year, when I would take pictures with people, I stopped and talked to quite a few people, 5, 10, 15 minutes. They wanted to know, what's your social media thing, or what's your hashtag, or, can I put, did the social networking thing. And then I would say, I work at the Comedy Store. And they're like, what do you do there? How long have you been there? What, you knew Richard Pryor?
Yeah.
And it was just so much fun, just really social. And also, because it was a smaller year, it was easier to, socialize. There was one point dead center where I was stuck in the crowd for 5 minutes, just squishing through. But that 5 minutes, and then it was that's okay.
Yeah.
And then I walked up to the club, and I walked about 3.5 miles that night.
Damn. What was
the
that?
camera
Something
just fell again.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. In case anybody would like more information, I have 2 Facebook pages. Well, I have 3. I have 8. I have 9. I have 1 for each of my musicals.
Do you?
Yeah. My main Facebook page is Jeff Scott Entertainer. And then I have a Facebook page called the Comedy Store Archives, where I upload videos and photos going back to the basement we're in now used to just be storage of old press photos and just tons of stuff. And I started, I asked Mitzi, I'm like, can I take this home and scan it and just for, archive's sake? And why? I'm like, well, if something would, ever happen. And then my dad was a historian at his college. Oh. So I think it's just sort of, I've always heard about him talking about it. And I'm really, Argus Hamilton is our historian, but I'm our archivist. And so it's the Comedy Store Archives. And then I have another Facebook page called Ciro's Nightclub on historic Sunset Strip. So
I didn't know those were yours.
Yeah. And the Comedy Store page, I've got 4,500 photos, and I'm starting to put up some more old videos on YouTube under the same name, Comedy Store Archives.
Ooh. And then on Instagram, where can people find you?
I think Jeff Scott Entertainer there also, or maybe Jeff Scott 101. I can't remember.
I think it's Entertainer.
I think Entertainer. Yeah.
And then people can see you here Tuesday through Saturday.
That's right. And
in the original room.
In the original room of the world famous Comedy Store, 8433 Sunset Boulevard in lovely West Hollywood, California.
And make sure to come between 8:30 and 9 to hear the half hour
of my fantastic limited music skills.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you so much for coming on. And guys, just remember to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.